Look, Bridget McKenzie, why agriculture? Was this something you chose?
Oh, well, I think for all of us in the National Party, we understand and appreciate the importance of agriculture and our primary producers to the economic prosperity and future of our regional communities. And so it is a portfolio we hold very, very dear. And I'm someone, like everyone else in my party, that wants to see regional Australia grow and prosper. And you've got to be part of that conversation and policy settings with ag to do that.
Right, so what will that mean? What are your priorities going to be in this role?
Yeah, well, absolutely. It's partly delivering on our election commitments that we took to the election a couple of weeks ago. So getting those rolled out as soon as possible will be my number one issue. But we've got to look at biosecurity. There's a huge issue in making sure that we maintain our clean green status, making sure our market access piece, so we've got the free trade agreements being signed off, and we've done some great work in that area, but it's those market protocols that sit underneath that will actually mean that our producers can get their product to market. Wanting to see ag probably get to that $100 billion industry by 2030, which is their goal.
And this has been the goal. Well, this has been the industry goal.
Absolutely.
Will the free trade agenda be enough to do that, to get to that level, do you think?
Well, we currently export 77% of what we produce in this country, but there is room for expansion, and industry knows that, but we need to get the right workers in the right place at the right time so that they've got the capacity, like when I say they, producers, have got the capacity.
So do we need to do, to that end, to get the right workers to achieve this growth, do we need an agriculture visa?
Well, I'm less concerned about what it's called and more concerned to get the policy setting right, to get the outcome achieved. So we've made some changes that we are seeing flow through the system now that are having a positive impact. But as I'm out and about across regional Australia over the last few months, you know, there is still more work to be done. So
what are they saying what's the industry saying to you at the moment? They need a specific visa?
Well, they're saying they need a specific workforce, and it differs from place to place, industry and commodity.
And they can't get that at the moment?
At the moment, they're finding it difficult. So I think there's still more of a conversation to be had around that and working with other ministers to achieve that end.
And but also, in broad terms, whatever it's called, it would allow foreign workers to come in and work at different properties,
but not necessarily
farms, or
Spearsy. So one of the issues is it's irrespective of whether it's someone from overseas or getting more Australians excited about the potential exciting career in agriculture.
Well, I'm sure you'd like to do
there's
that, but...
Yeah, well, I think there's a range of options that we're going to have to explore.
What could you do there? To encourage, more young Australians to go and work?
Well, not necessarily young. I mean, we've got a great grey nomad group out there.
What could you do there to
encourage...
I'm
looking forward to working with industry to see, well, how do we make sure they've got the workforce they need to get to $100 billion? A big piece of what industry is concerned about is getting the digital connectivity right. They estimate that by getting that piece right, they'll add another $20 billion. So,
but just sticking with the workforce issues that are being raised with you, I mean, sure, if you can get Australians to do it, be they grey nomads or younger Australians, but if you do need to get more foreign labour in, are you saying that the visa settings at the moment aren't quite what the industry needs?
What I'm saying is that in the consultations and conversations I've had out in regional communities is that there are skill shortages out there. And however we choose to solve this problem, and I think it'll be a whole suite of options, we need to make sure we get the right people in the right place at the right time of the season to get the job done for agriculture.
Because the PM before the election last term rejected the idea of an agriculture visa. So this is something you'll return to?
Absolutely. Like, I think industry's still talking about this, right? So we need to continue to keep talking and working on solutions, whether they're about encouraging Australians to get excited about ag, which would be my preference, or whether there's other solutions.
Digital connectivity, this is an interesting one for agriculture and I suppose many industries at the moment. The NBN was meant to solve all of this. What needs to happen there? Do you think there needs to be cheaper access to the NBN?
Well, I think we need to get the infrastructure rolled out, which is what we as the Liberal National Party have been doing. Since we came to government, we've had over 1,050 mobile base stations funded and being rolled out across the country, and it's our goal to have 1 million square kilometres with mobile coverage by the end of this period of government.
I mean, could the new 5G network really?
Well, it's difficult out in it's difficult out in regional areas. So whilst 5G is being examined in those more congested urban areas. We're going to have to look at creative solutions for getting 5G out. But you look at our farmers, how they've adopted the Internet of Things on farm, how they're using the satellite technology. So there's a whole raft of technological solutions that we need to make sure farmers have access to so that they can increase their productivity. I'm really excited to be working with the industry.
Now, I'm intrigued about the portfolio split here. You're the Minister for Agriculture. David Littleproud, who was the Minister for Agriculture, is now Minister for Water Resources, Drought, Rural Finance and so on. That sounds a lot like the duties of the Minister for Agriculture.
Well, I am the Minister for Agriculture and I'm the lead minister in that portfolio area. I think what
So when it comes to matters of water resources or drought, you're the lead minister, is that?
What I think it shows is our government's commitment to standing shoulder to shoulder with our drought-affected farmers in their communities, work which David has actually led with the Drought Task Force, and making sure that it's got a cabinet responsibility rather than, as has been in the previous parliament, ministers responsible for certain aspects of our drought response collating together. He's been given specific response, which is a fantastic outcome.
But are you going to be treading on each other's toes a bit here?
Not at all. I mean, we work incredibly collaborative together. We are on the phone constantly. Obviously, water is critical for agricultural production and prosperity, so I'll be drawing on his expertise and advice in that area.
But there are overlapping,
as he will mine.
I mean, drought, for example. When you're dealing with a drought policy, who's calling the shots?
Well, he's responsible for drought response, so that is his responsibility.
Right.
Water, the Murray-Darling Basin Plan, etc., is in his areas of responsibility, and I'm responsible for the Department of Agriculture. But as you say, David, these are very much interconnected, and we'll be working closely together for the best interests of our agricultural industries in regional Australia.
The number of Nats in the cabinet has gone down to 4. Why has that happened?
That's simple mathematics. It's a proportion of the government party room. But we've had a fantastic result. And I think you see how regional Australia really responded to the National Party's local campaign, being able to stick up for local jobs, particularly in central Queensland, and that they know that we're always going to fight and back them in wherever we are, particularly here in Canberra. I think they really responded to that. I think you should look at the Labor Party's understanding, finally, the contribution that regional Australia makes, 7 million Australians that don't live in capital cities. And you need to actually think about, if you want to run the country, how am I going to make sure agriculture is prosperous? How am I going to make sure mining industry is prosperous? That's 70% of our nation's exports, millions of Australians employed. You cannot hope to run a country and an economy without backing those two industries and therefore regional Australia. And I think Labor is working out to their, their failure of being able to do that.
Barnaby Joyce, you would have seen yesterday, was a bit miffed that he didn't get a phone call when he lost the position of drought envoy. Was that an oversight?
Well, look, Barnaby makes a fantastic contribution to regional Australia, and he'll continue to make a really strong contribution in the party room and to the parliament. The New England returned him en masse, and I think they're very excited to have him retained as their local MP.
Someone have given him a call and gone, sorry mate, we don't need you anymore as drought envoy?
I think you see our government's response to the drought evidenced in the fact that we have a cabinet minister with specific responsibility for our drought response. The PM's first agenda item of business when he got back to work was to head up to Cloncurry, and formerly when he was elected Prime Minister it was head out to Quilpie. So our government's commitment to standing with our primary producers and their communities, as we don't only just deal with the front end of drought now, but what's going to be a long time in recovery, is evidenced by the ministry announced and also by the PM and the DPM's behaviour on the first week back at work.
Well, Minister for Agriculture, Bridget McKenzie, I know you're not sworn in until tomorrow.
No.
I'm sure you're looking forward to that. Thank you very much
hope.
for joining us this afternoon. Appreciate it.